In humility and modesty, be like the earth. In covering the faults of others, be like the night. In generosity and helping, be like the flowing river. In tolerance, be like the sea. In anger and irritability, be like the dead. In compassion and mercy, be like the sun. Either appear as you are, or be as you appear. Rumi. There is a wisdom in these words that calls you beyond the ordinary rhythm of life. Listen carefully. They are not merely instructions on how to behave, but mirrors reflecting the essence of your soul. Rumi does not speak only to your mind. He speaks to the heart that aches, the spirit that longs, the self that sometimes feels lost in the dust of the world. Each counsel he gives is like a door, and when you step through it, you discover a room within yourself that you had forgotten. The question is, will you dare to enter? When he says, in humility and modesty, be like the earth, he reminds you of where you come from and where you shall return. The earth holds everything, your footsteps, your tears, your laughter, your sins, your prayers. It does not boast when a palace is built upon it, nor does it complain when it is trampled under careless feet. The earth is silent, yet strong, patient, yet alive. To be like the earth is to let go of the constant need to prove yourself, to stop demanding recognition for every good deed, and instead to hold others with quiet strength. Ask yourself, when was the last time you listened without needing to speak? When was the last time you allowed someone else to shine without feeling diminished? That is the earth within you, waiting to be awakened. In our modern world, everything shouts at you to be visible, to prove your worth, to gather likes, followers, recognition. Yet the earth whispers, do not forget your roots. Do not forget the quiet dignity of being. To live with humility is not to belittle yourself. It is to align with truth. The tree does not deny its fruit, yet it does not scream about it either. It simply grows. When you walk with this kind of humility, your presence becomes a garden for others to rest in. You no longer compete, you simply are. And that being is enough. Then Rumi says, in covering the faults of others, be like the night. Imagine the night sky. It spreads its dark cloak and gently hides what is broken, what is unworthy to be seen under the harsh light of day. The night gives rest to mistakes. It does not expose, it protects. To be like the night is to learn mercy. Not the mercy that points a finger and says, I forgive you, but the mercy that never needed to accuse in the first place. When someone wrongs you, your ego wants the world to know. Your heart, if guided by the beloved, wants instead to shield. Ask yourself, how many people's faults do you carry around in your memory? How many wounds do you keep open by revisiting them? The night invites you to let them sleep, to cover them with silence, and in doing so, to find your own rest. This is not easy, I know. In the world we live in, gossip is entertainment, judgment is currency, and exposing another feels like power. But Sufism teaches the opposite. As Yunus Emre once sang, we love the created for the sake of the Creator. To love the created means to see their flaws, but choose not to magnify them. It means you hold their mistakes as a secret between them and God, not as a weapon against them. When you cover another's faults, you discover that your own soul becomes lighter. You sleep more peacefully because you no longer carry the burden of judgment. Next, Rumi counsels, in generosity and helping, be like the flowing river. The river does not ask who drinks from it. It does not demand gratitude. It simply flows. And in its flow, life blossoms around it. When you give, do you give like the river, or do you give like the merchant, waiting for a return? To be like the river is to give without calculation. It is to understand that everything you own is already flowing from God to you, and your task is only to let it pass through. The miser builds dams and walls, fearing loss, but the river knows, the more it flows, the more it is renewed. Look at your life. How often do you withhold kindness, fearing it will be wasted? How often do you hold back your time, your attention, your love, because you think the other person may not deserve it? And yet the river flows even for the one who throws stones into it. Generosity is not about worthiness. It is about the overflow of your own heart. If you want to feel abundant, start by giving. Not just money, give your smile, your listening ear, your silent prayer for a stranger. Each act of giving turns you into a river, and soon you will find that rivers never run dry when they are connected to the source. In tolerance, be like the sea, he says. The sea holds everything: pure waters, dirty rivers, endless streams. It does not reject them. It swallows them all and yet remains vast, deep, and alive. To be like the sea is to allow others their space to be different, even when they trouble you, even when their ways disturb your calm. Tolerance does not mean weakness. It means your heart has grown so wide that it cannot be shaken by small differences. The sea is not afraid of rivers. It welcomes them. Can you welcome the people in your life, even when they do not match your expectations? In our age, differences divide us like sharp knives. Politics, beliefs, identities, choices, each becomes a wall. But Rumi whispers, be like the sea. Do not shrink your soul to the size of a narrow pond. Expand. Become oceanic. When you are oceanic, insults are like pebbles thrown into your depths. They sink without trace. When you are oceanic, another's belief does not threaten you. It enriches you. Because you know, all rivers lead to the same sea, and within the sea, all waters lose their separateness. Then he says, in anger and irritability, be like the dead. This is a striking image. The dead do not respond to insults. They do not rise in fury when provoked. To be like the dead in anger is to let your ego die before your body does. It is to recognize that your worth is not harmed by someone's harsh words. Anger is the fire of the ego, and if you feed it, it burns your peace. But when you let it die, you discover freedom. Who can chain a man who no longer reacts? Who can wound a heart that does not rise in rage? Think of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who endured insults with silence, who answered harshness with gentleness. That is the path of the dead ego. It does not mean you let injustice thrive. It means you act with wisdom, not with blind reaction. You become a mirror, not a flame. And in compassion and mercy, be like the sun. The sun does not choose where to shine. It warms the palace and the prison alike. It lights the rose and the thorn. If you wish to follow the path of the Sufi, let your heart shine in the same way. Do not calculate who deserves your compassion. Give it freely, and you will discover that compassion does not deplete you. It enlarges you. The more the sun shines, the more radiant it becomes. And so it is with mercy. Perhaps you have been hurt, betrayed, neglected, and perhaps your heart says, I cannot shine on the one who wounded me. But listen closely. The sun shines not because of the worth of what it touches, but because of its own nature. Compassion is your true nature. When you withhold it, you shrink. When you release it, you expand into who you really are. The sun does not ask for thanks. It gives because giving is its being. You too are created to radiate. Finally, Rumi says, either appear as you are or be as you appear. This is the crown of his counsel. Hypocrisy is poison to the soul. To pretend is to divide yourself. Your tongue says one thing, your heart feels another. Your face smiles while your eyes weep. To live this way is to be in constant war within yourself. But to be true, to let your outer and inner align, is to taste peace. When you are as you appear, you no longer waste energy on masks. You become transparent, and in that transparency, light shines through you. The modern world thrives on appearance. Social media urges you to curate, to filter, to perform. But your soul longs for authenticity. The people you inspire most are not those who looked perfect, but those who were real. To be real is to be vulnerable, yes. It may mean others see your flaws. But remember the night. You have already learned to cover others. Trust that God will cover you. What matters is not being flawless, but being true. Each of these counsels is not separate. They are rivers leading to the same sea. Humility leads to compassion. Covering faults leads to authenticity. Generosity leads to tolerance. Together they weave a fabric, and that fabric is the robe of love. To wear it is to walk this earth as a servant of the beloved, shining with qualities that are not yours alone, but reflections of God Himself. Pause now and look within. Which of these counsels touches you most today? Which one do you resist? That resistance is not an enemy, it is a doorway. Step through it. For example, if you struggle with anger, see it as a teacher reminding you where your ego still clings. If you struggle with generosity, see it as the sign that you have forgotten your own abundance. Each weakness is an invitation to remember who you are. You see, these 7 counsels of Rumi are not abstract poetry to be admired from a distance. They are a living map, a guide for the soul that longs to remember its home. And the beauty is this: you do not have to perfect them all at once. Even the smallest step toward them is already a movement toward God. When you attempt to be like the earth in humility, you may fail. When you try to be like the river in generosity, you may stumble. But each attempt shapes your heart, softens it, and draws it closer to the beloved. Do not despair in your imperfection. The rose does not bloom in a single day. It opens petal by petal, and each stage is beautiful in its own way. Let me share with you a story from the Sufi tradition. Once a dervish came to his master and said, "Master, I am tired. I try to be humble, yet pride still rises. I try to forgive, yet anger still burns. I try to be generous, yet I cling to my possessions. Am I failing?" The master smiled and replied, "No, you are not failing, you are alive. The soil must be tilled again and again before the seed grows. Do not confuse the work of the soil with failure. It is preparation." My friend, perhaps you also feel tired. Perhaps you think you are failing because you are not yet the night, the river, the sea, the sun. But listen to the wisdom of the Master. Every struggle you endure is the soil of your soul being prepared for love. Do not curse the struggle. Bless it, for it means your heart is still alive and growing. Now let us turn these counsels toward our modern lives. In the world you live in, humility is often misunderstood. People think it means weakness or passivity. But humility is not the absence of strength. It is strength without arrogance. Think of the earth again. It holds mountains, valleys, rivers, forests. It is not weak. It is the very ground of your existence. Yet it does not boast. In the same way, you can walk humbly and still be strong. In fact, humility makes your strength more beautiful because it is no longer poisoned by pride. In a time when self-promotion seems to rule, the soul that lives humbly shines brighter, for it reflects the light of God, not the spotlight of the ego. And what about covering the faults of others like the night? In this age, mistakes are recorded, shared, broadcast, never forgotten. A single error can follow someone for life. But the way of Sufism is the opposite. It invites you to cover, to protect, to let people rise again without chains of shame. If you can be the night for another, if you can hide their weakness instead of exposing it, you give them the space to change. The night does not only hide, it also allows rest and renewal. In the same way, your mercy can be the beginning of another's transformation. Is that not worth more than exposing their shame? Think of the times your own mistakes were covered by God. Do you not live today because He veiled you? Then why not do the same for others? Generosity like the river is another counsel deeply needed today. Many people feel empty, afraid to give because they think they have so little. But the secret of the river is this: it does not give from itself alone. It is constantly fed by springs, rains, and mountains. In the same way, your generosity is not yours alone. It is God flowing through you. When you give, you are not depleting yourself. You are connecting to the source. The more you let it flow, the more it is renewed. Even modern science confirms this. Those who give, who serve, who volunteer often live longer, healthier lives. The river not only sustains others, it sustains itself by flowing. Tolerance, like the sea, may be the hardest in our divided times. The sea accepts all waters, clear and muddy, warm and cold. You too are invited to expand your heart until it becomes oceanic. This does not mean you agree with every idea or condone every action. It means you recognize the sacred dignity of each person as a creation of God. It means you can hold space for differences without fear. When you do this, you discover that your heart becomes vast. Narrow hearts suffocate. Wide hearts breathe deeply. The ocean never fears the drop. The drop fears being lost in the ocean. When you become oceanic, you no longer fear the differences of others. Instead, you embrace them as part of the vast design. And what of anger? Rumi says, "Be like the dead." This is not a call to numbness. It is a call to silence the ego that insists, "I must be respected. I must be avenged." The dead ego cannot be insulted. When you learn to let your ego die, you discover that anger loses its grip. Yes, sometimes anger seems justified, especially when you face injustice. But even then, anger is a dangerous fire. It blinds more than it clarifies. Sufism does not say, ignore injustice. It says, respond not with the fire of ego, but with the clarity of spirit. Even when you must act, let your action be rooted in wisdom, not in the blaze of rage. This is the death that gives life. the death of ego that allows the birth of truth. Compassion, like the sun, is perhaps the most radiant of all. Look at the sun in the sky. It rises every day without fail, even when clouds cover it. It shines on everyone, whether they are saint or sinner, believer or disbeliever, grateful or ungrateful. The sun does not discriminate. Can you let your heart shine in the same way? Compassion is not weakness, it is divine strength. To show mercy in a merciless world is to be a reflection of God's own light. Remember the words of Yunus Emre, "We did not come to the world for strife, we came to love." If you let compassion guide your steps, you will discover that even the hardest hearts begin to soften in your presence. Finally, authenticity. Either appear as you are or be as you appear. This is the great longing of your generation. So many live behind masks, hiding behind curated images and filtered lives. But your soul grows weary of pretending. Deep within, you crave to be real, even if being real means being imperfect. Do not fear imperfection. God did not create you to be flawless. He created you to be true. When your outer matches your inner, you live in harmony. You sleep without the burden of masks. And those around you are touched by your sincerity, because sincerity is a fragrance that cannot be faked. Remember, even the prophets, even the saints, were not without human struggles. What made them luminous was not perfection, but authenticity. Let us pause here and breathe. Imagine these counsels not as distant ideals, but as seeds planted in your heart. With patience, water, and care, they will grow. Perhaps humility is already sprouting in you. Perhaps compassion is still a seed hidden deep. Do not despair. Every seed has its season. Trust the gardener. Trust that your life too is unfolding in divine timing. And now let us reflect. Where in your life do you feel the greatest struggle? Is it in covering the faults of others? Is it in letting anger die? Wherever you struggle, remember this. God often hides His greatest gifts in the places where you feel weakest. Your anger may become your strength when transformed into patience. Your lack of generosity may teach you the abundance of trust. Your fear of authenticity may lead you to the sweetest freedom. Nothing is wasted. Every struggle can become a doorway to love. My friend, do not think you are alone in this path. Every seeker has walked with trembling steps. Even Rumi himself was once restless, searching, yearning, until he met Shams of Tabriz, who shattered his illusions and opened his heart. You too may meet your Shams, not always in the form of a person, but perhaps in the form of a hardship, a loss, a challenge that forces you to grow. Sometimes the beloved comes disguised as pain. But if you look closely, you will see that pain was only a teacher, leading you back to love. So take these 7 counsels and let them guide you. Do not rush. Do not measure yourself against others. Walk slowly like a dervish in the Sema, turning round and round, yet always centered in love. With each turn, you will find humility, mercy, compassion, truth. And slowly, your life will become a dance, a reflection of the divine music that has always been playing within you. If you feel an emptiness inside you, know that this emptiness is not a curse. It is the space where love can enter. Do not try to fill it with distractions, possessions, endless noise. Let it remain open, for in that openness, you will discover the presence of God. Rumi once said, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." The emptiness is not your enemy. It is your invitation. Now let me speak to you directly. If, as you listen, you feel the stirring of something deep, do not ignore it. That stirring is your soul calling you home. Perhaps you feel small, unworthy, broken. But remember, the earth that Rumi spoke of is trampled daily, yet from it grow roses. The night is filled with shadows, yet it also carries the stars. The river is sometimes muddy, yet it still quenches thirst. The sea is wild, yet it still embraces. The sun burns, yet it still warms. Even death hides a secret life, and authenticity, even in its vulnerability, is radiant. So too with you. Even with your flaws, you are worthy of love. Even with your struggles, you are capable of light. Do not forget this. If you have listened this far, let me invite you. Take one of these counsels and practice it this week. Perhaps you choose generosity. Give something without expecting return. Perhaps you choose humility. Let someone else's light shine without comparison. Perhaps you choose compassion. Shine your warmth on someone who least expects it. Try it and watch how your soul begins to breathe more freely. And when you feel ready, share your journey with us. Write in the comments. If you too feel the emptiness turning into a place of rebirth, write, "I am being reborn in the emptiness." Let these words be a testimony, not just for you, but for all who walk this path together. We are seekers, not alone, but together. If this journey nourishes your soul, I invite you to stay with us. Subscribe to the channel, not for numbers, not for vanity, but because in this journey of awakening, you are not alone. Each video is a gathering of hearts, and every heart makes the circle more complete. If the words of Rumi, Yunus, and the great masters touch you, then join us again. Because together we remember what alone we forget. And so I leave you with hope. Hope that you will take these counsels not as heavy burdens, but as gifts. Hope that you will walk gently with yourself, with patience, with love. Hope that your emptiness will become fullness. Your pain will become cure. Your struggle will become dance. You are not lost. You are on the path, and the Beloved walks with you, always.